Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Building a Business, Grit and Grace. I'm Anna Angelova, the host of this podcast and a business coach and consultant. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with Don Elliott. Don, welcome to the podcast. I'm so looking forward to hearing more about you and what you do. So let's start with the first question. Who are you and what do you do?
So I'm Don Elliott. I'm the owner of Gravitate, which is a digital marketing and web design company. I also own Poor Choices, which is a pub a little bit about a block and a half away from our house. So I've been in the marketing and creative industry for almost 30 years now, and an agency owner for probably around 25, I think. So that's me. I live in the Pacific Northwest, just outside of Portland in Vancouver, Washington. And I'm kind of typical of people who live up here. So I'm into the outdoors and good food and good beer and hence the pub.
Oh, well, that's fantastic. And you've been around for like 25 years with the digital marketing. Share a little bit more about this business. And like you did mention, like it's something, I think it started in 1999. So it's like even the previous century.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. So Gravitate began at the very beginning of the internet, arguably, at least as far as the internet becoming mainstream and commercial. Um, I had started my own agency. So Gravitate started with different owners initially. And then I had started my first agency in 2002, I want to say, and built that up. I had a couple partners. We built that up. And then I sold my shares back into the company. I moved on and created another agency called Elliott Design. And then Gravitate came and bought my agency in 2012. And then I took over as the new head of operations and ran the company for about 4 years. And then I left, and honestly, I just needed a break from running agencies, and so I decided to do consulting for 4 years, a little less than 4 years, while I was figuring out what else I wanted to do. And in the meantime, Gravitate fell into a position where it was very attractive to buy back. So I came back on March 2nd of 2020 and bought the company, and been running it again ever since.
Not a very linear path. I love it.
Right.
You started with one agency, then you built another one. You took some time off, which shows you that business ownership is not you started and then you just do this the whole time. Um, and you've been in this industry for a lot of years now, and you said like some of the things back in the early 2000s is completely different from what we see now. So, what did you say are some of the biggest shifts you've seen, particularly in the marketing industry?
Yeah, so marketing has gone through many evolutions since back then. Definitely the biggest impact was social media itself. So before social media, SEO, search engine optimization, was the main play, and it was relatively easy to do really well. And so Gravitate really succeeded for quite a while just off of that. Um, but now it's incredibly complicated. There's so many moving parts, and with the introduction of AI and platforms like Meta that are kind of forcing AI on people, um, it's the amount of levers you need to turn, the amount of things you need to tweak and mess around with are astronomically higher than they were 20 years ago. um, Agencies, it used to be that you could have a full service agency and you would be pretty good at everything you did. You'd be doing billboards and videos and websites and this whole shebang. But now it's so nuanced and so complicated that agencies have become much more specialized. So for us, we deal directly with digital marketing. We don't do traditional marketing. We have partners who we bring on board for clients who need that, but to be relevant and to be sharp and to stay on top of things, agencies really have to specialize now. Um, and as far as on the client side, for companies who are marketing, there's been different trends that have come through. So, for example, when COVID happened, there was a big push for authentic content, which is still the case, but unpolished content. There was this sense of, we're all in this together. The world's falling apart. There's all this chaos and confusion. And so people didn't want to see these polished, really refined executive videos. They wanted to see somebody with a camera saying, hey, my life sucks right now too. Let's talk about it. Um, since then, what's interesting is now there's a trend that's almost in the opposite direction. Still authenticity, still keeping it real, so to speak. But people do want to seek brands that are more polished and more, they're not fly by night. They're going to stick around. And again, it's because of the temperature of the market right now, with all the chaos in the various governments around the world, and wars and things like this. People are wanting to see some stability. So those trends come and go, but I'd say the real big difference is just the amount of tracking, attribution, and complexity of marketing now is doesn't compare at all to what it was 20 years ago.
Oh yeah, a lot of things have changed, and like one thing that you mentioned as well, thinking about like with AI, how many new apps and businesses are coming up that I'm not surprised that you're seeing people who are looking actually for stability, knowing that the company will be there. It's not something that just pops up and disappears. So very, very, very interesting observation. You did mention clients. So I'm actually curious, what type of clients are you working with?
Yeah, so we do work with a lot of nonprofits. We're primarily small and medium-sized businesses. We do quite a bit in travel and tourism, and then a lot in tech startups, and in particular in infrastructure. So things like data storage, cloud security, that kind of thing, which is a lot of the infrastructure that backs AI. So it's a good position to be in and to know about. Um, I'd say overall, we are largely a B2B company. We have some B2C clients that we do really good work for, but our specialty is more in B2B.
Mhm. And sometimes we forget. Like we look at things that change, right? The trends that come and go, and things that change. But sometimes we forget about the fundamentals that are still the same, even now in 2025, at the end of 2025 almost. So I'm curious, with your experience, what would you say are some things that were true back in the early 2000s and they're still true now?
So human psychology, that hasn't changed. The fundamental principles of advertising are still the same. You want to speak to people's fears. You want to speak to their aspirations. You want to convey the why, which has become somewhat of a cliche in marketing, but it's a cliche because it's true. Why does this matter to me? So it's cool that we have to put an ad that's going to syndicate on LinkedIn and slightly different on Google search and slightly different on Meta. And then there's going to be an email, and all this coordinated complex activity is all cool. But at the end of the day, there's still words that somebody's reading. And those words need to inspire, they need to convey emotion, and they need to capture somebody very quickly. Because even 20 years ago, people's attention spans have never been very long for advertising. You've always only had a few seconds to really capture somebody, whether it's a billboard or a TV commercial or a digital ad. So that human psychology is still the same, which is one of the frustrating parts that we have to deal with as an agency. Is Google, for example, removed the ability to use your own copy. So instead of us being able to say uh, an ad that's compelling and that has, a good hook to it, Google now forces you to put in terms. So, and then it uses AI to decide real time what the ad should say. And it's horrible. So, for example, we had an advertisement that went out for us that said industrial web design for industrial companies. Like, like that wouldn't have passed, a 101 marketing class test. There's nothing compelling about that. There's nothing emotional. There's nothing aspirational. It's meaningless words. But Google has stripped that right from advertisers because of
Oh,
AI. Yeah, it's an interesting change. It's pretty upsetting to the rest of the industry because historically the power of advertising was in the words and visual second. And well, visual first for capturing the attention, but the words is what brings it all home. And now we don't have that control, and Meta's starting to head that same direction. So that's a pretty big upset in the ad industry.
wow. I didn't know about this. It sounds like I would be upset. Like if I was
Yeah.
doing even just as a user, I would be upset. Or if this happens, well, I have not had no idea.
Yeah.
Which actually brings me to another question. I'm curious. It's definitely a very interesting industry to be part of. Like you said, the human psychology itself and the way we haven't changed. So, what brought you to marketing actually in the first place?
Yeah. So, um, growing up, I was always creative. I was a writer and a drawer and was into painting and all that kind of stuff. So the visual arts and the literary arts really appealed to me. But I actually started off in a nonprofit organization and managed to gain some traction there. And so what happened was I had essentially become the general manager of this nonprofit that had multiple businesses like a coffee shop and some other things. And the there was the former chief of staff for the mayor of Portland lived in the neighborhood, and so he was seeing all the changes we were making and how good, what a big impact we were making in the community. And so I was invited to go and help consult with other companies that were on different streets that were being revitalized. And during that process, I was very young. I didn't know what I was doing at all, but I had lots of ideas. Um, but during that process, what I realized was most of those businesses knew how to do what they were offering. If there was a creperie, if it was a music school, they were good at doing what they did. What they generally weren't good at, sometimes it was finances, a lot of times it was finances, but most of the time it was marketing. And so we were constantly bringing in these marketing agencies to help these businesses. And meanwhile, a friend of mine had graduated from Idaho State or University of Idaho, one of those two. Um, and with a design degree, and he was super talented. So we went in with one other partner and started our own agency to service those needs, and then it kind of took off from there. So I sort of fell into marketing because those were the doors that opened up, and it aligned with my skills and talents at the time. But I didn't go to school for it. I never did any kind of training or anything like that. No certifications. Just kind of dove in.
Yeah, these things are, like you said, sometimes life takes you there, and like through experience, the fact that you also saw the opportunity, like you saw the pattern that, oh, these businesses are great at what they do, but a lot of them, like I said, finance is a big thing, marketing another big thing. They don't know how to do this. You saw the opportunity and you took it, which
Yeah.
is something that entrepreneurs do. Mm. And you've been on the two sides of, like you mentioned that uh, with your second business, actually Gravitate both it, right? Like this is how you ended up with working with them, and then you've also been on the other side where you were the buyer. So like at
Yeah.
home, I'm curious to hear a little bit more about these stories, what it's like to sell your business, and then what it's like to buy a new business.
Yeah. So, selling the business was a lot easier than buying it, I found. Um, because when I sold the business, the SBA in that first deal, selling Elliott Design to Gravitate, the SBA wasn't involved. It was just a private matter. And we did a business evaluation and came to an agreement on the terms. And They paid the money, and we merged into their company. It was really pretty straightforward. I think it was about a 3-month long process. Um, Learned a lot in that process. So I thought I was asking all these very smart questions, and the things that I didn't ask that I would have now in retrospect is one, I would have asked to interview people from the staff, the current staff. I only spoke with the leadership, but I would have liked to have spoken to regular staff members to get a more authentic view on how the company was being run. Because what we discovered was the company was being run very poorly, and they were in a really bad situation. So, but their numbers looked good in P&L statements. So numbers don't show you that 70% of the staff is about to leave.
Yeah.
The numbers don't show you that there are pending lawsuits happening. Things like this, major issues. So I learned a lot about what to ask, asking about their operations and processes and how are they actually fulfilling these clients. Um, we dove into that a little bit. I wish I would have dove into that more. And the only reason I say that it wouldn't have changed me selling it. I still would have sold. But I would have come in with a much clearer understanding of what the next few years were going to look like and what my role was going to be in that. And I would have come in with some additional demands on what my authority was going to be like from day one, things like that. Because once we got into things and the company, I was turning the company around. Um, the other owners and I had some disagreements on where to take the company. When I left, we left amicably. We left as friends. So it wasn't a toxic thing, but we definitely weren't on the same page. Um, Now, selling the company, much more complicated, but also we worked with the SBA or not selling, buying the company, sorry. When I came back and bought Gravitate in 2020, we did an SBA 7A loan, and that was the bank we worked with was absolutely the worst banking experience of my life. They were so incredibly incompetent. The deal almost fell through twice because of their negligence. So really being diligent on having a banking partner that one, the person who's your point of contact isn't about to retire, because our point of
Oh,
contact retired 1 month after the deal was closed, and we found out why he wasn't putting any effort into it. Two, a bank that can actually break down the process to you clearly and say, this is exactly what's going to happen. But the three is just, it's worthwhile meeting multiple bankers until you find one that you believe has really the energy and the drive to make the deal happen. Because a lot of bankers are there to check boxes. They've got a salary, they've got a gig, they just want to go home to their wife and kids or, husband, whatever. Um, Whereas if you can find a banker who is passionate and they care about the deal and they want to see things come through, they want to see you set up properly, the process can be a lot smoother. Um, so we had to come to an agreement again on, and it was kind of funny because they bought my company and then I came around and bought their company. So we were going through similar processes together. We had to come to an agreement on what the company was worth. And that was fairly complicated because it wasn't just having a business evaluation. We had to agree on, how many leads they get a month. How much is that worth? What's the value of a retainer for growth marketing versus a retainer for hosting? Because those are different types of engagements. And so it was definitely a lot more complicated than buying the pub. Buying the pub was easy as well. So yeah, that's the kind of it in a nutshell.
uh, you mentioned buying the pub. This was something that happened very, very recently. So with this one, it's kind of completely different from marketing.
Yeah.
Why buy a pub?
Yeah. So the pub is a really unique thing. It used to be called Doomsday. It's now called Poor Choices, POUR choices.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and they were a brewery before, and a whole community of people had built up
Mhm.
around it. And so we had lots of friends and acquaintances there. But the previous owners really wanted out. And so I approached them about purchasing it, specifically because we're a part of that community and we wanted to keep it going. It's very arts focused. We have every month is a new featured artist. We have jam nights and live music and karaoke and all kinds of things going on. So I saw it as a way of giving back, but also a way of sort of memorializing or retaining something that was really important to me outside of money. So it's a small place, it's not a big money maker. It's not something I'm ever going to retire off of, but there's a lot of passion behind it. And it's interesting to me because I can have Gravitate and we can do a $200,000 website or, a $200,000 retainer, and we can see all the graphs move up and to the right, and we're seeing, results. That's fantastic. This website performs really well. That's fantastic. And that's all still abstract. We're looking at charts. We see that, the founders of this company were able to buy a new house. There's things like that are rewarding and fulfilling, definitely. Um, but the pub is, I'll stand across the street at night and look inside the windows and see friendships being made, and people laughing and having a good time. It's very concrete. It's very real. And so Gravitate, we work with nonprofits and we watch literally infant mortality go down as a result of our efforts, incredible things that make a real impact in the world, that are meaningful. But there's something about seeing people live in the real world experiencing something wonderful that is incredibly fulfilling.
Yeah, I can understand what you're saying because with the marketing, like yeah, you can see the impact, but you are a little bit behind the scenes, like you're in a way the back end. But
Yep.
with the pub, you were there, you were in the midst of this and seeing that impact that you're making.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
so beautiful, and that's like I'm so happy to hear this story. And I'll just quickly share. We actually went to Des Moines this year recently, and on our way we stopped in Michigan, and we were watching Guy Fieri, the diners, dive-ins, this one,
Yeah.
and he was talking about a place in Des Moines that was a drive-in. Like you go with your car, you were in your car, and they bring you the food. And the owner was saying how he was showing the pot from his dad, and his dad was on a World War II, like he was in World War II, and the pot was actually from there, engraved and everything. Long story short, it turns out the owner passed away, and no one took over that business, and it's not there. It's closed. It's been closed for I think since 2019, and we wanted to visit it, and we felt like
Uh,
such a bummer that something that was the locals loved it. People were going and experiencing it. And what you did with buying a local pub, something that, like you said, it's not big, but people come in, people form friendships there. I find this fantastic. The fact that you're continuing this. So really appreciate this, and definitely would love to visit it one day. Poor choices.
yeah.
It sounds like a really cool name. Mm, but back to business actually. So mm, when you think about the two different businesses you have, like with the marketing and the pub, um, in terms of lessons that you've learned, although like with the pub it's been just a year and a half or so, what would you say are some lessons that carry over between digital marketing and owning a pub, running a pub?
Yeah. So there's quite a few crossovers. One thing is that when I talk about business, I often talk about how um, it's it's the marketing and the management that matters. The product doesn't matter. The product is a catalyst. So you can have a really bad product, but a great experience. and you'll retain people. You have a really great product and a bad experience, and you won't retain people. Um, Walmart, made their whole shtick on really cheap stuff. They weren't a luxury item. They didn't try to say they were high quality. They said you can get a lot for a little from us. Pet rocks. There's countless examples of it doesn't really matter what the product is. It matters how you market it. So for us at the pub, um, we sell beer and wine and cider and that kind of thing. And you would think that's our product. But to me, it's not. That's just the thing that we sell. What you're really coming there for is the experience. It's the people that you meet. It's the person behind the bar who's serving you. And it's this entire experience that you're having. And it's the same with Gravitate. Anybody can serve beer in the same way anybody can get good SEO results or good paid advertising. Um, there's plenty of agencies who do what we do and they do it well. The difference is that we value that relationship and the actual experience much more than than a lot of agencies do. So one of the things that we did was we got rid of account managers, which is very unusual for our industry. Typically, you have the client, and then you have an account manager, and then you have the team doing the work. And usually that team's led by some kind of strategist who, knows what to do. So we removed the account manager, and now the clients deal directly with the strategist who's being held accountable for the results. And that strategist still has a team of people that they can work with, but they're the ones who are setting the actual strategy, the tactics. They're the ones that, when my VP meets with them on a weekly basis, they have to show the results of all the clients. So that experience is really key to our success. It shows clients that we care, that we're compassionate, and the exact same thing applies to the pub. People coming in, they want to see care and compassion, that it's more than just the beer or the SEO results.
Very well said. Having that experience and being focused on your customers, whether it's in the pub, someone having a beer, or if it's your B2B client getting the digital marketing strategy. Now, you did mention a little bit when you talked about the experience of selling your own business. You did mention a little bit about you wishing to talk with some of the other people, not just the management, which actually made me also think about culture, like building company culture.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit more about this, and like you could share for both businesses. I know like the pub is something newer. How are you doing this? How are you building, fixing things? Because like you step actually into existing businesses, and I can imagine that there might be things that are not working as well as you want them to be.
Yeah. Yeah. So culture to me, my basic philosophy is you first have to do your job to really hire the right person. And that's probably the hardest part of the whole thing is hiring the right person. And we could talk a lot about what that means. But once you hire the right person, they need to have the vision and guidelines necessary to know what their job is. But then after that, you need to get out of their way and let them do their job. So the way I see it is I try to hire people that are as good or better than me at what they do, preferably better. And then, we make sure they understand here's the vision of the company, here's our values, here's where we're going. This is the kind of expectations we have for clients. Um, and here are the tools that you can use. Now go forth and do it. And let me get out of your way. I'm not going to be double checking all of your work. I will be there as a resource. I will be there to remove obstacles that you can't remove, but you're the one who's going to be running forward and making this thing successful. And I do the same thing with the pub. So it's all about empowerment. If somebody believes that they have trust, so when they know that I trust them, they rise to the occasion. And when they know that their ideas matter and that they're going to be heard and that they have influence, they rise to the occasion. They also stay around a long time. We have employees who have been with us for many years, despite having gone through downturns and rough periods. because they know that they have impact and that they matter, that they're seen. I make sure to spend time with all of my employees one-on-one. Um, and it's all about hearing ideas. I think a big part about culture is we talk about inspiration a lot. And um, I'm known to give some, flowery speeches here and there, which are fun and they're inspiring in the moment. But really, what inspires people is believing that they're a part of something bigger. Um, and sometimes that's just reminding them of their career. Yeah, you're doing this task right now and it sucks, but it's a task we've got to do. But it's putting you in a position for your career to take this next step, whether it's with us as a company or not. And so you're reminding them of the bigger picture in their own life. And as a result, you earn loyalty, and you earn passion from them. The moment you start taking away from that, the moment you start micromanaging, then it becomes, well, I'm just a cog in the wheel, so I can work anywhere. So I'm going to go to whoever pays me the highest. And you don't have that kind of longevity with your employees.
Yeah. What I'm also hearing when you're sharing this is caring about them. Like what you were saying
Yeah,
about like putting, like having that reminder that sometimes it's about their own journey, that it's about their own career and taking them to the next step. Because again, like especially with the marketing, when you are working back end and creating something that like, you're just doing something that is at least one or two steps removed from seeing the real impact. Yeah, you can be wondering, why am I doing this? What's the purpose of it all? Mm.
yeah, yeah. I was asked in another podcast. Somebody asked me if AI was going to take my job in the future, and I said no, very confidently. And the reason I believe that is that um, my job is when an employee is overwhelmed and they're dealing with depression and they can't get out of bed, to call them and to talk them through it and to hear where their problems are and to remind them of the bigger picture, to give them time off if they need it to recover from whatever it is they're dealing with. AI cannot deliver that kind of compassion, because even if it has better word choice than I have, the AI doesn't care about you. Whereas I'm going to be there as another human who gives a dang about what your job is and where you're going in your life and how you're succeeding and all of that. So as long as we still need any level of leadership, there's still roles for leaders to be played. And I don't see AI taking leadership anytime soon.
Oh yeah, definitely. Uh, it's a tool. It's a tool for certain things, and that's it, like any other tool. Like you said, that human to human conversation, and especially when you need your leader to show up. Um, Speaking of leadership, you did mention that like you had partners. So I'm actually curious uh, what it is like some of the pros and cons of having partners with you.
Yeah. Oh, I've got lots of stories about that. My first partnership in the first agency I started with, the friend I had mentioned, um, that one, the financier we brought in was his uncle. So it was a nephew, an uncle, and me. Um, and a lot was uncovered later on in how they were handling their finances. Um, and so that's why I sold my shares back into the company, was because they were doing nefarious activities. I didn't want to be involved in it, so I got out. So that first partnership, um, I think going into a partnership where you're not a family member and the other people are, is already a red flag. That I was young, so I thought it wouldn't matter. Um, my partnership structure for Gravitate right now is I own 70%. So the other three are silent partners, essentially. I get their feedback, lean to their advice. We're in constant communication, but I'm the sole decider for the business, which makes it much easier to run. The pub, on the other hand, there's five of us, and we're all equal
Hmm.
partners. And there's couples involved. There's my wife and me. There's another two gentlemen that are married, and then a gal, makes up the five of us. And we are, that was difficult at first. Lots of fun and excitement, but also very difficult at times. We had to work through some kinks. We had to learn each other's communication styles because even though we were all friends beforehand, business makes people different and you perform differently. It's like a football player on the field versus off the field. Perform differently. So we had a lot to learn and to work through. But I think the reason it works for us is the pub is not there to make money. It needs to make money. We want it to make money. It needs to pay its bills, but it's there for the community and for the passion that we have for it. So if I was in the pub and it needed to make money so that I could pay my bills, I would not have equal partners.
Mm-hmm.
I would have deciding say in it. I have come to learn that I work very well with others, but I stress out when I'm having to when let's say we have a group of people, we come together and there's one leader who decides we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and I don't agree with X, Y, and Z, it's very difficult for me to be on board. I'm not great in that regard. It's easy for me to take a back seat. I love it when somebody else wants to lead. So it's not a control factor in that regard, but it is a control factor in that it's like grating against my soul to perform an activity that I don't believe in. So for me, it's a lot less stressful being a business owner just on that in that regard.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting point there, like because the pub is more of a something you're doing for the community, and yes, like you said, you wanted to cover at least the expenses, and it's not there to as your main source of income, revenue, these kind of things. That this is one of the reasons why it's working out. Having five partners ultimately. But then if it was the main one, it would have been a completely different story. So it's great for everyone listening. This is a great point to think about when you are getting into partnership, like the good and the bad things about this. Building a business is not easy on its own, and having those things with partners is also adds a different layer of complexity. Now, you did mention for the pub that you are, it's for the community, and this is something you love about it, and that you have different themes for every month. So it's more of like there is some art involved there. So can you share a little bit more about this? And
Yeah,
maybe what's coming up in the next few weeks and months? Like the holidays are here, Thanksgiving, Christmas.
yeah, yeah. So we focus the pub a lot on the arts in general. So every month we have a different featured artist on the walls and the arts for sale. And so that's rotated every month. So every month there's kind of a slightly different vibe in the pub, which is pretty cool. And the artists do really well. They sell pretty consistently 12 to 16 pieces every month, which is really good. Um, and then we have trivia on Mondays. We have a jam session on Tuesdays, which is where a bunch of musicians come in together and the place is packed and they're all rocking out. It's really fun. We do bingo on Wednesdays. On Fridays, we have live music, and that's also always local musicians. And then karaoke on Saturday. And Sundays, like a writers group and tabletop gaming and that kind of thing. So we're trying to have something going on pretty much every night of the week.
Oh, sounds so interesting. Like this can keep you coming back every week, every day of the week because there's something going on, something different.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, the whole model is built around regulars. It's the two neighborhoods. Well, there's several neighborhoods here, but the two main neighborhoods here, the historic neighborhoods, and just regulars who come in all the time is
Mhm.
really the whole model.
Uh, well, you are in marketing, so if I don't ask you this question, it's like, so when it comes to the pub, what's the best thing that's working right now? I know it's a lot about the locals, but still, like even with locals, you need to, like you said, care about them, give them the experience, but marketing is still a huge part of running any business. So starting with the pub, what's working right now in terms of
Yeah.
marketing strategies?
So we do in the local newsletters, we do an advertisement, a printed advertisement in the printed newsletters that has some results. They do okay. We occasionally will get out to like the Saturday markets or other events and hand out
Mhm.
handouts, and those tend to do pretty well, like little coupons that we're handing out. But the bulk of it is really just social media. It's creating events that people can attend. It's posting videos and things like that. And um, we are we're running about, we're firing on 4 out of 6 cylinders on that one because we're actually going to be meeting with a social media company who's a partners of ours with Gravitate to produce some content for the pub because I'm doing a lot of AI content for it right now and then like occasional videos. And that's cool. It's effective and it's working, but more authentic content, original photography versus AI and things like that will do even better. But it really is about being, we're on different Facebook groups and boards and um Instagram and all that. So I'd say, and generally for restaurants, what I've seen in my career is social media really is the strongest play. We are on Google Local. That's a very important thing to set up to make sure Google Local and Google My Business is all set up correctly. Um, and then we're working on things like loyalty programs where we can start to get more Google reviews because that's a big
Mhm.
way for you to show up in results of the reviews.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like with the Google reviews, it's interesting. Like someone mentioned it recently as well, how much it helps, with, especially like you said, with restaurants and pubs. Mm.
Yeah.
How about with Gravitate and the marketing agency? Like you did mention that it's mostly B2B. So nowadays, what's working the best there?
Well, the tried and true word of mouth is still, a big part of it. Um, Still referrals from past and existing clients, pretty regular. We rank really high in SEO for various terms,
Mhm.
so we get a decent amount of leads from that, and we're constantly producing content. We do a degree of digital advertising, and those are mixed results. To be honest, it's very difficult advertising agencies because the market's really saturated. Because what's happened is agencies have been closing down left and right the last two
Yeah.
years because marketing's arguably in a recession. And so agencies have been closing down. So those of us who are still alive are selling as hard as we can, every angle that we can. So it's becoming really saturated. Um, a lot of advertisements. So advertising's been mediocre. Um, we have a few different outbound programs that we've got going on, including a couple more that we're going to start. Those are starting to generate decent results, but there's a lot of like refining and tweaking of the system and um, refining messaging and all that kind of stuff that takes time. And so it's not like a silver bullet that just works overnight. You have to really work it. So that's generating some results. And then I just do networking myself and then getting out on speaking on podcasts and things like that just to sort of keep my face out there.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Final couple of questions. If you can give one piece of advice to someone starting a business today, what would it be?
Wow. I would say probably the first thing that comes to mind is be willing to take risks. Um, but I have to immediately preface that by saying, be willing to take calculated risks because I think a lot of entrepreneurs, we have egos, we have uh, a certain level of confidence and a certain level of belief in the world that other people don't share that can sometimes be too optimistic. And so you've got this great, brilliant idea, and it's going to be a big risk. By all means, go for it, but do the due diligence and calculate the risk and mitigate everything that you have control over, mitigate that part of it, and then move forward. But being willing to take the risk, I think, is I've seen so many agencies flounder because they don't, or businesses in general, because the world changes and they don't change with it. Or an opportunity opens up to grow and they get too scared and they don't jump on it. Or the business is dwindling. We've been doing the same thing for the last 50 years and it's always worked. Now it's dwindling and they don't want to take a risk and try something new. But that's more, you need to do that now more than ever.
Yeah. Amazing. So much gold in everything you're saying. So I highly recommend, if you're listening, listen to this again. Now, where is the best place for people to connect if they need the marketing agency services, and then also for the pub?
Yeah. Yeah. So Gravitate is gravitatedesign.com. We're on LinkedIn and the metas as well. And then Poor Choices is in Vancouver, Washington, and that's poorchoices.pub, POUR. And then you can find me personally at donelliott.us, and that's 2 L's and 2 T's.
So we'll have all these links in the description, so you can go check these things out. Anything we missed? Anything that you would like to share about building a business and even your own passions? I know you mentioned writing as something you like, and like growing up you liked it, and even now. So if you want to share something about this.
Yeah, so I always wanted to be a novelist growing up, but I didn't want my income dependent on my art because I wanted to do whatever I wanted to do. So I've published 3 books so far in the fantasy genre. My 4th book should be released, I think, within a few months, if not early next year. So yeah, all that's really fun. I think to your question about like final thoughts, I think being able to compartmentalize as a business person and protect your space, it's so easy to be burnt out doing what we do. And it's so easy to just think you're tough and to have the grit to move forward. And you do need the grit. The grit is so important. But if you don't protect your space, and to me, that is identifying what are my values and how do I feed those values. And creativity is a value of mine. And so writing is a value of mine. And if I don't protect that space, if I let business overtake it, then I will find myself in a place of burnout quicker than I realized. And usually by the time you realize burnout, it's too late. You're already burnt out. So really compartmentalizing and protecting your space, forcing yourself to work less than 50 hours a week so that you solve the right problems versus just overcoming problems with hard work, I think is really important.
Yeah. Absolutely. I really appreciate you bringing this thing up, and a great reminder, even for myself. Thank you. I also needed to hear this.
That's wonderful.
Well, thank you so much, Don. It was a pleasure talking with you and hearing so much about your story and your very interesting journey. Not straightforward at all. Like having the 2 agencies, selling yours, buying the one that bought yours. It's like, wow. And now having a pub as well. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much. And have a wonderful rest of the day.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. Thanks, Don. Bye.